Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great. In this video, I am going to show you how I made my first personalized DIY stained wood sign for my niece's bedroom. Let's start with the basics. This is my first time to make a stained wood sign and I will share a short glimpse of the basics before starting the project. So if you are a first timer, listen to this carefully. If you are a pro, let me know in the comments if I missed any pointers so we all can learn from it. And if you are here for the first time, click that subscribe button for more DIYs and crafts like this. Let's get started. The simplest thing to understand regarding the wood staining process is to know what type of stain to choose. If you are using an oil stain, it is better to use an oil-based varnish or top coat to seal it. And if you are using a water-based stain, use water-based top coat or sealer to seal the stained wood. That was easy, right? But in my case, I couldn't find the water-based stain in the color I wanted. So after reading the instructions at the back of the package where it said that polyacrylic water-based sealer that I chose from Minwax can be used on both the oil and water-based stain if the stain is from the Minwax. So I went ahead with using the Minwax oil-based wood finish for staining and Minwax polyacrylic as a sealer. Now that you know what to use for the staining, let's start the making process. Oh, and I forgot to add one more point. This might sound silly, but I always recommend you to read the instructions on the can of whatever products you are using to make DIYs like this. I think I loaded you with a lot of information. Now let's get to the making process. To make the wood sign, I am using a 18-inch round wood panel from Lowe's. Use a sandpaper to smooth the surface and make it ready for staining. Use an old cloth or rag to remove the dust particles from sanding. Another thing to remember while sanding is always follow the wood grain. If you do it in the opposite direction, you will see the scratches after applying the stain. So always follow the grain while sanding. Now the wood is ready to be stained. Next comes the staining process. Open the stain can and give it a stir. I am using a popsicle stick to stir the stain and make sure you wear gloves and have a nice ventilation while doing this process. The stain I am using is Minwax wood finish in dark walnut and it is a semi-transparent finish, which means after staining you will see a beautiful grain peeking through. Use a foam brush and dip it in the stain and brush it onto the surface. Allow it to rest for 5 minutes and use an old cloth to wipe away the excess. Now allow it to dry. Wait for 2 hours and do the second coating if necessary. I wanted it dark, so I went with 3 coatings with intervals of 2 hours drying time. Once the final coating is done, I left it to dry for 24 hours before moving to the next step. It is very important to allow the stain to dry for a day in order for the stain to cure properly before proceeding to the next step. To seal the stain, I am using polyacrylic water-based sealer as I said earlier. This was a very difficult choice because everywhere I read, people suggested to use polyurethane if the stain is oil-based. One thing that made me avoid using polyurethane was many people who have done it before said that the vinyl used on top of polyurethane coating starts to yellow over time. I don't want this to happen as my wood sign's main name is in white font and it is the highlight of the sign. Also, if I wanted to paint on top, I had to go for oil paints, which I don't have any in my stash, but I have a lot of acrylic and chalk paints which are all water based. So I went with polyacrylic as top coat or finish to secure the stain. To do this, I am using a bristle brush and following the wood grain with light coats until the whole sign is covered. Then I allowed it to dry for 2 hours. I did 3 coats and allowed it to dry overnight before proceeding to the next step. So now it is time to decide whether to use paint or vinyl for the designs. The thought of vinyl yellowing and peeling off stuck to my mind, so I thought I'll try the paint first, and if it doesn't work out, I thought I'll have vinyl as a backup plan. I designed the whole sign in the Silhouette software and cut the stencil, pasted it and used multi-surface paint from Foca to do the designs. I gave 2 to 3 coatings of paint, allowing it to dry in between the coats. The stencil worked perfectly in some places, especially in the middle part. The name Shruti came out perfectly. But when I peeled the stencil off of the design, the paint started to peel off in some places. The paint idea was 50% okay and 50% not okay. I think I allowed the paint to dry too much, so it started to pull off. So if you are trying painting, make sure to peel off the stencil while the paint is still wet. The main drawback of using paint is that it took a lot of time and effort, and in the end I lost energy to try it again and fix it. So I covered the entire design with black paint and tried vinyl on the other side. So I used the same software and the Silhouette Portrait electronic cutting machine to cut all my vinyl designs. I used Oracle 651 type vinyl for the sign. Once the designs are cut, I weeded the extra parts using craft knife and then used transfer tape to transfer the designs to the wood sign. I used a card and smoothened the vinyl to make sure it really sticks to the transfer tape. Then I centered the design using a ruler and used a card again and went over each vinyl letter to make sure it sticks to the wood sign. Then I peeled off the transfer tape and repeated the same steps until all the design parts are done. The wood sign turned out beautifully than I imagined. Vinyl worked so much better than the paint. It was much quicker compared to the painting process. I wish I had tried the vinyl first, but that is the beauty of DIY, right? I'm happy that I can share that information with you all so you know what will work and it can make your DIY process simpler. After this is done, my husband suggested why not do this as a two-in-one sign. Then the idea of target shooting game striked. I thought this will be a great idea to cover the paint fail. Target shooting game, I took a parchment paper and traced the outline of the wood panel and cut it to use as a template. Using that, I cut the pink felt for the outer circle. Then I fold the circle template in half until you get a cone-like shape as shown, and then I marked 1 inch from the edge and cut the template for the next circle. In a similar way, I marked the other 2 circles also and repeated the same process until I got all the circles. If you don't have a bigger felt piece, join 2 pieces together to make one bigger one. Since I had sewing machine, I joined the felt piece with a stitch, but feel free to do it with fabric glue. I also stitched the yellow circle with the blue and then the blue circle with the green and then the green with the pink. I then wrote the numbers using a white acrylic paint and a zero brush. Once the numbers are dry, I glued the whole thing onto the wood sign using E6000 and hot glue. To play the game, let's see how to make the sticky balls. I already had Velcro dots and ping pong balls from the dollar store. I stuck the hook part of the Velcro dots to the ping pong balls so that when we throw it sticks to the felt. I made 4 balls for the kids to play with. Let's put this to test. It works. Hooray! Next is the hooks and the chain part to hang the wood sign. To make this as a 2-in-1 wood sign, we need to hang the sign from the top, which I mean is the side portion of the wood. To do this, I drilled 2 cup hooks and attached a chain onto the cup hooks to hang it from the top. This way, when the kids want to play, they can simply turn the name sign to the game side and have fun with it. Once it's all done, here is how it looks. All the kids and even adults enjoyed the game side of the wood sign a lot, and we had so much fun with it. I hope this project gave you inspiration to make your own. Let me know if you have any doubts regarding the making process in the comments below. I'll be sharing the room reveal in my next video, so stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. See you all next time. Until then, bye, take care.